Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rao's IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis on current affairs which are published in the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper. Articles dated 7th of October 2021 are listed on your screen, and the timestamping for these articles is already given in the description box. So let us begin our discussion with the first article.
Here is the question for weekly assignment for means answer writing. The launch of Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission is a revolutionary step in moving towards universal health coverage in India. Discuss. You have to answer this question in 250 words. If you submit your answer before Saturday, you will get it evaluated from the faculty at Rao's IAS. So let us begin our first discussion today.
So the first article for today's discussion was published on page 7 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. This article actually explicitly talks about the current situation of World Trade Organization, the issue of bilateralism, multilateralism and protectionism, and how the current status of geopolitics is defining the trade across the globe. The author of this article has talked about different issues which are plaguing in the World Trade Organization at the moment and how these issues could be resolved in the near future. Well, from the prelims perspective, this article becomes an important topic for us as UPSC can ask questions in the prelim examination regarding the multilateral organizations. When it comes to the mains examination, it is important for your General Studies Paper 2 and General Studies Paper 3. In Paper 2, we are reading about the international institutions, agencies, fora and their structure including the mandate. In Paper 3, we talk about the effects of liberalization because World Trade Organization is somehow working towards the expansion of liberalization across the world based on the ideology which was functioning and which is practiced in the developed nations, both in America as well as the Europe. We will focus on the content of this article from the perspective of mains examination. Hence, this is going to be a very detailed analysis of the issues faced by the World Trade Organizations, the structure of World Trade Organizations, appellate body and the issues in the appellate body, India's issues with the World Trade Organizations and some possible way forwards. After this entire discussion, you will be in a position to answer this question which says that multilateral institutions are going through the process of degradation at global stage. Then the question talks about the World Trade Organization which is functioning in a passive stage. It also asks you about the issues faced by the World Trade Organizations and some of the measures to rectify such issues. So let us start discussing the aspects of World Trade Organizations. World Trade Organization was previously known by the name General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. However, GATE was not an organization per se. It was not functioning at an institutional level. It was not altogether an organization as such. It was functioning more like an implementation of an agreement signed between different nations. But in order to bring a particular organization with set objective, World Trade Organization was created. So when we go into the background of GATE, GATE traces its origin in the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference. This conference is extremely important for you, hence I will give 3 stars to this. This organization is also responsible for the formation of different other multilateral institutions like International Monetary Fund and your World Bank or International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. These 2 organizations and many other multilateral organizations led to the formation of International Financial System. This international financial system was also known as Bretton Woods System, in which US dollar was assumed to be the basic currency for the international trade. However, in early 1970s, this came to an end and now the international financial system is based on the regional policy or nation level policy where weighted average of currency is taken up in order to identify the valuation of currency. However, we will focus ourselves more towards the World Trade Organization and its trade objective. Well, the Bretton Woods Conference led to the recommendation for the establishment of complementary institution. Hence, as of now, the name was not known. And they called it to be the International Trade Organization. However, this never came into being. Meanwhile, on the other side, there was an agreement which was signed by 23 countries in Geneva 1947. And this agreement was known as General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, and it came into being on 1st of January 1948. So, the objective for this organization was to phase out the use of import quotas and to reduce tariffs. Basically, this agreement was nothing but a large free trade agreement between 23 nations. So, what about the other objective? What about the trade promotion? What about development of trade among these small countries? What about the promotion of trade between developing and developed nations? Where are those objectives? They were nowhere to be seen in GATE. Hence, a sequence of different rounds or meetings were organized, and these meetings were known as Uruguay Round. At the consequence of Uruguay rounds, multiple meetings were organized, and out of those meetings, a consensus was made that we need a separate organization, and that organization will replace the GATE. So, GATE was replaced by World Trade Organization on 1st January 1995. Both these institutions, that is GATE and your World Trade Organization, was formed on 1st of January. Important point here is that World Trade Organization is not a UN specialized agency. This you should keep in mind. This is one of the important facts that can help you to eliminate the option in the prelim examination. Now let us look into the other aspect from means examination. What are the goals of World Trade Organization? Let us look them one by one. The first goal is to lower the trade barriers through negotiation. Well, this was also the goal under the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. The second one is to operate under the principle of non-discrimination. And non-discrimination here does not only mean rich or poor countries, it also means different regions and the level of development. It also talks about the stimulation of economic growth and employment. That is, it says that trade should act as an engine of growth. Means when there is a promotion of international trade, it will benefit all the countries. Next, it talks about the contribution to the peace and stability. Because when a trade increases, it increases economic development and reduces the social instability. It also talks about giving a stronger voice to the weaker nations, most importantly being the nations from Asia and Africa. It says that rule-based order reduces the arbitrariness and kills the opportunities for corruption. Through this, it also targets the reduction in the cost of doing business across the nation, because when tariffs goes down, it will reduce the cost of imports and exports, and hence it will expand the trade internationally. And the last one, the most important topic of the goals of WTO is to promote free trade. This is the prime topic or the prime objective of the World Trade Organization. Now, given this discussion in place, let us look into the important structure of the World Trade Organization. Ministerial Conference is the most important body of World Trade Organization, where the member nations comes together every 2 years to discuss the important topics or the issues plaguing in the World Trade Organization. Under Ministerial Conference, we have different tiers. The most important one being the General Council, which include all the members and their representatives. The one important thing which is important in this structure is the dispute settlement body, which is also part of our today's discussion and largely remains controversial in the past 3 years. So let us start with the basics. What are the issues which are there currently with the World Trade Organization? Well, we will include the 7 important issues and their subparts in the discussion today. So let us start with the first one, that is paralysis of dispute settlement mechanism. Under this issue, what we see that the dispute settlement mechanism or the appellate body in the World Trade Organization is largely remaining passive. It is not functioning at all. However, it is responsible for resolving the dispute and the cases. It has a 7-member appellate body where as of now, because of the United States non-interference and its reluctance and veto power, the members of this appellate body could not be appointed. Hence, this body as of now is remaining dysfunctional. And because of lack of appointment to the members, the dispute settlement mechanism is now functioning as powerless. And as a consequence, It simply means that the dispute resolution or the dispute resolution mechanism in the World Trade Organization is not functioning as per the demand of an international body and the member nation. Why? Because some of the large nations, large economies are meeting their own interest in the name of World Trade Organization. Then we have the issue of most favored nation. Well, this simply means that a country which is providing benefit to one of its partner and is a member to the World Trade Organization will provide the same benefit to the other members as well. It will provide the lowest tariff to the member nations, fewer trade benefits, fewer trade barriers, and the import quotas. Well, as of now, all the World Trade Organization members receive most favored nation status. But some of the developing countries are exempted to provide this most favored nation. Now, let me make you understand this if you are reading this for the first time. Let's say there is a country, India. It is a developing country, largely remains poor with 20% of its population. Now, India wants to have a trade with, let's say, Sri Lanka. And in that trade, India has provided a duty-free or tax-free imports of, let's say, Sri Lanka tea. We have provided duty-free imports from Sri Lanka. Now, India and Sri Lanka both are part of World Trade Organization. Now, as per most favored nation, this status will go to the Sri Lanka. Now, the rules under the WTO says that if India is providing most favored nation status through Sri Lanka, it should provide the same status to other members of the World Trade Organization, which is above 190. So, India should provide the same status, let's say, to the United States, to the United Kingdom, Japan, China, or any other country. But what we have seen, there are some exemptions which are given to the developing country, in which they can provide themselves the status of self-designation. That means a country can say that it is a developing country, hence would require exemptions from the most favored nation status. Now, what US has accused that India and China are very large economies now, and they does not require to have the most favored nation. So if US is getting exemptions from the UK on most favored nation status, it should also get the same benefit from India and China. But both the countries are denying that. So this is another issue in the WTO. Then we go to the lack of consensus. This issue says that by now, that is over 25 years of existence, World Trade Organization has only brought one agreement into practice. Why? Because of lack of consensus. Nations do not want to dilute their instance on the international trade. The agreement which came into practice was the 2013 Trade Facilitation Agreement, in which nations agree to provide better benefits in physical term, monetary term, and policy parameters in order to promote the trade both at the international and the national level. The other issue faced in the WTO is your protectionism. Now, what does this protectionism mean? For those who are reading it for the first time, protectionism simply means that a nation will not provide better benefits to the countries which are exporting to its market. Now, let us take an example. There is a nation with the name USA and there is another nation with the name China. Both of them are trading in one way or the other. Now, what US has done? They are exporting Apple iPhones to China and they are importing, let's say, rice. Now, the policy of protectionism says now US will impose taxes on the import of rice from China, but will put subsidy or benefits on the sale of iPhone to China. What it will do? It will reduce the value of rice. That means it will benefit US, hurt China, and it will also increase the valuation of phones by demand, which means it will benefit US, hurt China. In both the case, China will be on the downward side and US will benefit the most. This is known as a policy of protectionism, where indiscriminatory use of taxation is utilized in order to benefit one's own nation. Well, this goes actually adversely impact the employment generation, economic growth, purchasing power across the globe. How? If rice exports from China to US is going to hit, what will happen? The people who are employed in China in the cultivation of rice will go unemployed. and this will impact China as a whole. Hence, the protectionism policy at World Trade Organization requires a serious attention. Then we have the issue of China angle. Now, what we are observing is that World Trade Organization's view on China's state-driven capitalism as well as its continuous offenses against the intellectual property goes unnoticed. Well, what is the matter? Chinese pharmaceutical companies, Chinese technological giants, and many of the firms in the service sector have used the intellectual property. For example, the computer softwares. They have just stole the computer softwares from the developed nations in despite having the rules on the intellectual property rights. And whenever the issue goes to the World Trade Organization, the institution has remained partially in favor of China. The next issue goes the TRIPS waiver. Despite having one of the most severe human crises in the form of COVID-19, World Trade Organization was incapable to provide the TRIPS waiver on intellectual property to the drugs and the medicines manufactured in order to fight the COVID pandemic. Now, the vaccine developed by US is not finding an easy access to the markets of the poor countries. Why? Because these poor countries were not allowed to have the license, the formula of the medicines, and the procedure of manufacturing that medicines without the permission of original brand of that drug. Now, this is the part of TRIPS. It's a very large topic to cover. I would suggest you to read further on the TRIPS agreement, especially with respect to the pharmaceutical. But in this session, we'll be limit ourselves to the major challenges. The last one being the failure of Doha round. Well, Doha round started in order to bring better consensus between the countries. But in 2008, this round came into end. And because of the ending of this round, there are large number of issues which remain unresolved at the international platform as far as WTO is concerned. The most important one being your agreement on agriculture, then the case of subsidies, then the case of trade facilitation in services, then we have the issue of investment measures and many others. So all these issues remained largely unaddressed because of the failure of Doha round. Now, after going through all these issues, let us look into what are the basic issues faced by India in general. The first one is India is facing issues related to the TRIPS violation. What is TRIPS? Well, TRIPS is nothing but trade related aspects on intellectual property rights. If a company is making medicine, they have provided research and development, they have scientists, they have doctors, they have factories, they have everything. They have invested crores of rupees in order to develop that medicine. So what they should have? They should have benefit. It is their intellectual property. They have utilized their brains. They have utilized their intelligence in order to produce that drug. So they should have some benefit. That benefit is known as intellectual property, and this is provided in the form of rights. These rights are enjoyed by the companies for a basic period of 20 years. But developed nations, especially the United States, have misused these 20 years and they have went into providing the evergreening of the rights. Through these means, what they have done, they have expanded their rights, their licensing to produce a particular drug. And because of this, the capability of developing nations like India to produce the generic drugs has reduced considerably. So, because of this, India has been facing the issue of TRIPS violation and the legislation to avoid it. India has also raised concern on the subsidies on the agreement on agriculture. If you will read further on this, you will find that there are subsidies such as blue box, we have green box subsidy, and we have amber box subsidy. Well, these are classified into trade distorting and non-trade distorting. What India has raised an issue is that developed countries have been providing excessive subsidies to their agricultural production, and because of this, their output, let's say the wheat produced by US or the rice produced by, let's say, European nation, is much cheaper in the international market. An Indian farmer is not able to sell his output in the international market because the price of Indian output is high. Then we have the issue where India has raised the concerns about the very high standards of sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Countries like European nations says that they will not import food items from India because they are not based on the sanitary and phytosanitary measures. They are unhealthy to eat. They have high level of toxic elements and many other excuses. India also wants to make peace clause as a permanent provision in the World Trade Organization. Now, what is peace clause? Well, peace clause means that there is a waiver. There is an exemption given to the countries for their public stock holding. Government of India uses this peace clause in order to buy food from the farmers at MSP, store that food and distribute under public distribution system or ration shops. Now, World Trade Organization rules and the developed nation says that India is violating the basic provisions of World Trade Organization. However, the peace clause provide benefit to India, and that is the reason why India wants to expand this to the permanent status. India has also targeted many developed nations, including US and European nations, for imposing heavy import tariffs or import duties on India's export. India has also sought a clear dispute settlement mechanism in order to provide better benefit on the issue of fisheries subsidies. Now, fisheries subsidies is important for India because India is the second largest fisheries producer. So, if India could not provide benefit to the fishing farmers, it is of no use for India to have any kind of deliberation at the World Trade Organization. So, India also want to have a better clearance on the fisheries subsidy. And lastly, India has also sent reservation on the weakening of dispute resolution mechanism that we have already seen in the case of appellate body. Now let us see what we can do. We have following way forward in the form of reforming World Trade Organization, free trade on medical goods, fish subsidies, investment regulation, digital trade and intellectual property rights. Let us look them one by one. On reforming World Trade Organization, first we should start with reforming the appellate body. And how we can do this? First of all, there should be a regular appointment of the members. Then we come to the safeguarding the sovereign rights of each nation. That is, whether you are a small nation, whether you are a large nation, you should have equal rights and equal ability to make up your mind. And lastly, we should have India can lead the way. India can lead the way through being a leader to the developing nation and provide a comprehensive note to the World Trade Organization. On the free trade front of medical goods, well, we can lift tariff, export restrictions and non-tariff barriers on the medical goods. It is like this. If we take a medicine, it should be free without any import tariffs across the world irrespective of the international policies. Then we have the removal of avoidable regulations and administrative barriers to medical product and its trade. It is very easy to understand. It simply means that the rules and regulations or the administrative barriers, which we also known by the name red tapeism, should be avoided to at max possible. Then we should also go for ease of movement of the frontline workers like doctors, nurses and other paramedics across the borders. This is actually part of General Agreement on Trade in Services, which is a sub-agreement under World Trade Organization. Then we come to the issue of fish subsidies. Well, under this, we need to enable sustainability and higher returns to the farmers, irrespective of which country we are talking about. We should also look into improving the global food security because there are some nations which are producing, there are other which are consuming, and there are third nations which are actually benefiting from transfer of goods from one country to the other. Hence, we require to go for better food security to benefit all three categories of nation. We should also look into the benefits of the artisan fishing community in long term by providing stable jobs, increasing income and reducing poverty. Whatever be the final stand on the fisheries should also be targeting the benefit towards the fishing community. Then we should have the investment regulation. What we require as of now is that there should be a general agreement to facilitate the trade. It is also called as Trade Facilitation Agreement on Investment. We already have the similar agreement on the goods. We should also go for the same agreement in services, and we should also have the same agreement in terms of investment. When it comes to the digital trade, which is now the new oil of the world, it should enable at least minimum level of commitment from the countries on different aspects. It simply means that let's say we are talking about e-commerce. You want to buy a pair of shoes from Dubai, or you want to buy a, let's say, a wristwatch from, let's say, London. So you should have the basic criteria, similar policies, similar taxation, and similar time of travel, irrespective from where you are buying it or from where you are selling it. So we should have a same consensus and policy on digital trade also. And lastly, we should look into intellectual property rights. How we can do this? It can be done through licensed manufacturing. See, understand this through this example. Let's say there's a company A in the United States and they are manufacturing a drug X. Now this drug X is licensed one. So why not this company A from the US can provide a license to company B in India to produce the same drug X. This licensing will help to distribute the benefits because the benefit will go to the nation B, but better manufacturing and reduction in cost of production will also benefit India as well. So these kind of licensing manufacturing could be promoted under World Trade Organization. So after going through this entire discussion, let us look into this question once again. Multilateral institutions are going through the process of degradation at global level. So now you know how World Trade Organization is working in a passive function and how it is becoming a degraded organization. You know the role of United States and Western countries. You know the role of World Trade Organization in terms of intellectual property and the recent COVID crisis. So you can start your answer from there. You know all the issues which we have discussed by now, and you also know some of the measures which we have quoted in this discussion. So after that discussion, you will be in a position to answer this question in 250 words. Let us now move to the important prelims related question attached to this article. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box using it to be the question number 1 for today. Let us now move to the next article for the day. The second article for today's discussion got published on page 1st of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper. And this article actually talks about the recent move made by the World Health Organization and its recommendation on first anti-malarial vaccine. Now what does it mean? It simply means that now we can have anti-malarial vaccine in the future very soon. The new vaccine proposal of the malaria was made by the World Trade Organization is the basic context of this article. Now, going by the relevance of this article, mostly these kind of diseases such as malaria, dengue, chikungunya, Zika and others are most importantly be related to your prelim examination, where UPSC asks questions related to the diseases which were in the news for one reason or the other. However, you can also quote these kind of diseases and the measures in your health related issues and the questions in your general studies paper 2 and 3 in your mains examination. So the content of this article will include what is malaria, what are the causes to malaria disease, what is the cure available to the malaria, and some of the details about the World Health Organization from the prelim perspective. So let us begin a discussion with the background of the relevance of this topic. Well, as you can see from these 3 questions, these are just the sample which we have taken up. There are large number of questions related to disease in the prelim examination. In 2017, UPSC asked questions on the multi-drug resistance and the microbial pathogens. They've also asked a question related to diseases in the plants. They've also asked questions related to the Zika virus in 2017. See, they are asking just the basic knowledge. So, given the same trend, we will look into the basics of malaria. Well, malaria is a life-threatening disease. It means, yes, it can cause death. It is borne by a mosquito which feeds on the blood. Hence, it is a blood-borne disease. This is caused by a Plasmodium parasite which actually transforms from one person to the another person through the bites of infected female Anopheles mosquito. This malaria is mostly prevalent in the tropical and the subtropical areas of Africa, South America as well as the Asia. Why? Because of the temperature and the humidity. These 2 factors promote the development and the growth of female Anopheles mosquitoes. After the bite of a mosquito, the Plasmodium enters the human body. It multiplies within the liver cell and then attacks the red blood cells of a patient, resulting in their rupture. Rupture of what? Rupture of red blood cells. So it simply means that a female Anopheles will bite a person, the Plasmodium parasite will enter the body, they will target the liver cells, and through that they will target the red blood cells, and red blood cells will get rupture. And you know the red blood cells are extremely important for the transfer of oxygen in the human body. The symptoms of this disease include fever, flu-like illness, including your shaking chills, headache, muscle ache and tiredness, and the most important one being that it is preventable as well as curable. So let us now look into the importance of World Trade Organization. Well, this is a United Nations specialized agency. Well, what is specialized agency in the UN? They have important targets, set targets. They are not functioning in each and every body. For instance, we have General Assembly in United Nations. They does not have any specific function per se. It does not have any specific function. They are functioning in every subject, every area, every corner. But specialized agencies work only in a particular area, in a particular subject. World Health Organization is looking for public health. Then we have agencies like UNESCO, which are looking for cultural aspects. Then we have organizations like UNICEF, which are working for child development. Similarly, we have World Health Organization. It was started in 1948 with a headquarters at Geneva, Switzerland. So this is also important for your map perspective. It has 194 member states and it also has a function related to intergovernmental organization. It simply means that governments and their representative are also part of World Health Organization. Well, it functions in the areas of global health matter, the most important one being your current COVID pandemic. It helps in reshaping and shaping the health research agenda. So whatever research we are conducting right now on COVID crisis, as far as free research is concerned or collaborative research is concerned, World Health Organization is involved in that. It set up some norms and standards. It also provides some evidence-based policy options, such as in the case of malaria. It provides technical supports like it is already doing it in the form of malaria and its vaccine development, and it provides monitoring and assessing of the health trend, which it has committed in the case of current China's COVID-19 virus. The objective of the organization include directing and coordinating with the international health work, providing a collaboration with the other agencies of the United Nations, provide assistance to the nation's non-governmental organizations and others, and promote the cooperation among the scientific and the professional groups which contribute to the advancement of the health. Basically, after all these points, it is clearly understood that World Health Organization cannot regulate the health sector across the globe. It does not have any penalizing power to any country, member or a person. It cannot regulate the trade of health services across the world. So if today US want to sell a vaccine to, let's say, UK but not to the France or India, World Health Organization cannot have any word on that. So you should keep these things, that what is the power of WHO and what is not. Now, given this discussion, let us look into the basic structure of United Nations. This is extremely important table and you should have all the idea about it. At topmost, we have United Nations General Assembly, where recently Prime Minister has given an address. UN General Assembly simply means that all the members of UN will have one representative at least who will be sitting in this assembly whenever the meeting is called. It has 5 different organs. The first one being your Security Council. The second is your Trusteeship Council. Then we have Economic and Social Council. We have the Secretariat of United Nations and the International Court of Justice. The most important and the controversial is your Security Council, also known by the name United Nations Security Council. This council is responsible for providing the net security across the globe. Then we have the next tier of specialized agencies. As you can see, there are a number of specialized agencies. You must have heard about ILO, IMF, IMO. Then we have UNESCO, we have UNIDO, you have World Health Organization, World Bank Group and whatnot. So you should have this basic idea of the structure of United Nations, because this is important for your prelims and the mains examination. So now I leave you with this important prelims related question. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. So now we come to the last article for the day. This article got published on page 12 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the winning of Nobel Prize in chemistry and the reasons behind it. The context of the article says that Benjamin List and David Macmillan won their Nobel for chemistry this year for development of a tool to build molecules which has helped the chemistry to be more environmental friendly. Now, why this victory is important, we will understand each and every aspect on that regard. From UPSC perspective, it is important for us to know about the important scientific development in the country. UPSC has already asked questions in the prelim examination regarding the graphene, for which already Nobel has been awarded. The content of this discussion would include understanding about the contributors and what contributions they have made and some of the important keywords which is required for this examination. But before understanding what was their contribution, let us look into the important terms. The first one is the catalyst. Well, what are catalysts? Catalysts are the substances that control and accelerate the chemical reaction. Let's say there's a chemical reaction between two compounds and we want that chemical reaction to be concluded very fast. So what we will take? We will take a substance which is a catalyst. But they do not become part of the final product. So when we get the final product after reaction, we do not find any traces of the catalyst. Some of the features of catalyst include that they do not initiate the chemical reaction. They are not consumed in the reaction. During the process, they react with the reactants. However, after the completion of the product, they are regenerated again. So there is no gain or loss in the amount of catalyst. They could be solid, they could be liquid, and they could also be in the gaseous form. Some of the catalyst may also be in the form of metals or the oxides, including sulfides and halides. As far as their form is concerned, we have positive catalyst and negative catalyst. Well, catalyst that increases the rate of a chemical reaction are positive, so very easy to understand and remember. The best example could be your ammonia, where iron oxide is used as a positive catalyst to increase the rate of chemical reaction. Then we have negative catalyst, which decreases the rate of reaction and are known as negative catalyst. The best example is the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen, and in this we use acetanilide. As of now, a substance that can increase the catalyst activity is known as promoter. So what is promoter? Promoter is another substance that increases the activity of the catalyst. So when we have promoter that increases the activity of the catalyst, and catalyst on the other hand increases the rate of reaction. So ultimately both of these are important. On the other hand, in order to reduce the activity of a catalyst, we use other substances known as catalyst poison or inhibitors. So what we have understood by now, we have understood what are catalysts, what are their features, what are their different types, and what are the basic reasons for creation of these kind of catalysts. And now let us understand why these two people have won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. See what they have done. They have now developed a tool that can be used to control and accelerate a chemical reaction. So now we have a tool which can control the chemical reaction and also protect it becoming a hazard. Over many decades, what humans have tried is to construct molecules that can form elastic and durable material that can also be stored in batteries, or they can also inhibit the progression of a disease. So we wanted to achieve all these objectives, but this requires catalyst. Now we know what catalyst is all about, so you can easily comprehend this from the blue line. What happened previously is that researchers and scientists have believed that there are only two types of catalysts available, either the metals or the enzymes. Enzymes are nothing but the living catalyst or biocatalyst. Then these two people, they have developed a new technique in which a small organic molecule, now this is the most important thing of the article, a small organic molecule known by the name asymmetric organocatalysis. What does this organic molecule do? Well, this allows the drug maker to streamline the production of medicines for depression and respiratory infection
among others. Now, in order to understand what is this, let's see how it is done. When molecules are built, there is a situation when a similar molecule can be replicated. We can have two different types of molecules showing the similar property. But in order to develop a medicine, we require just one. But we have one other also. This other one becomes a waste, which also goes against the rules of environment. So what these two people have done, they have developed organocatalyst, which will allow the production process of any drug or let's say medicine to be performed in unbroken sequence. So now we will not produce multiple molecules at the same time. It will reduce the waste in the chemical manufacturing, thereby benefit the environment. Through this initiative, we will now produce more medicine using the limited raw material and limited waste product. Now, how this organocatalyst work? Well, they bind to the reacting molecules to form a short-lived intermediaries that are more reactive. So more reactive means more efficient. And after binding to their reacting molecules, they transfer their efficiency to the substrata of a molecule and thereby control the either side of a reaction. So let me repeat the process again. Organocatalyst will react to the reacting molecules to form a short-lived intermediates. And these short-lived intermediates are more reactive. More reactive means more efficient. Then they transfer their efficiency to the substrata of a molecule. And this substrata will then help to get a balanced reaction with least waste product. Now, the benefit lies that the researchers can be more efficient in constructing anything from new pharmaceuticals to molecules. That can also be helpful in the solar cells and solar energy. In a way, it is one of the best research recently conducted which will help the humankind in the long term. The most important use could be now we will have efficiency of medicines that can target the disease in much more efficient manner and can reduce the illness across the globe. And this is one of the reasons why the Nobel was awarded to these two people. With this discussion in place, now I will leave you with question of the day. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. With this, now we come to the conclusion for today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you.